Welcome to today's class. Come on in. It's doing CMAs and pulling comps. So you all will have your login to your MLS system here. Let me put this here. You're going to scroll down, and your first one is Matrix. And what you're going to do is click on that one, and it'll open up your MLS search. So first of all, comps. Do we know what comps are? What are comps?
Comparative market analysis.
Well, that's a CMA. So comps are, when you pull comps, it's comparable properties, right? So when do you need comps?
When listing a home, comparing what's been sold.
And also when you're going to make an offer, did that listing agent price it correctly, right? Because just because they put a price there doesn't mean that is everybody sees it at different value. And why it matters when you're writing an offer is because if they're getting a loan, they have to get an appraisal most of the time. And so when they get an appraisal, they have to pay for that. And if it's $100,000 difference and the seller's not willing to come down, you have to educate your buyer on that. Say, hey, I just did the comps before we wrote this offer, and it looks like they're very overpriced. We can offer that price. But just know if it comes in below, that seller doesn't have to reduce that price. And then that's when you have the conversation with the listing agent. Hey, I'm looking at the comps. We want to submit an offer, but I know I don't see where you're getting that pricing. Can you show me something I might not be seeing? If the appraisal comes in low, are your sellers willing to reduce the price? Because the last thing you want to do is, get into an offer, right? You get your offer accepted. They spend $500-600 for an inspection, $500-600 for an appraisal, and then it comes in, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're not lowering it, and then they walk away. They get their earnest money back because they're in their time frame, hopefully, but they've lost $1,200 at least, right? And so sometimes that's a make or break for some people, and they can't get another property. They don't have the money to do inspections or appraisal on the next one. So that's why you want to educate them before you do that. And sometimes it's a gamble. You're just like, it depends on what your buyer's asking. If they're asking for closing costs, if they're asking for a home warranty, and they're asking them to reduce the price, then they're asking them for repairs once they get the home inspection back. That's a lot to ask, and the reducing of all of that pricing for the seller and what goes in the seller's pocket. So you do want to kind of hone that in when you're making an offer. Now, when you're doing a listing, yes, you do need to do a comp to find out what's going on in the neighborhood. Generally, the comps are the solds, but I like to include the ER, which is active, the UC, which is under contracts, and then the solds. Sometimes I even pull up the expireds to see what they were listed at, and it expired, it didn't even sell, right? But you need that so you can kind of figure out pricing, right? Okay, so does everyone know how an appraiser appraises a home? What values? No. Okay, so general rule is appraiser's going to go like for like. So if you have a 1-story, they're gonna try their absolute hardest not to use a 2-story to compare that to, right? And in Vegas, we've got a lot of cookie cutter subdivision homes. So even if they can't find anything in that subdivision, likely they can go next door to those subdivisions and find what they're looking for. But it's generally 300 square feet above, 300 square feet below, and 3 months back. Anything more than that, they have to consider, do we want to go further back for a like, or do we want to go to the next neighborhoods? And it's all up to the appraisers, right? And so you want to compare apples to apples. If you had a 1-story that's like 2,800 square feet and then a 2-story that's 2,700 square feet, it's totally different because a 1-story generally will pull more. And then they pull for higher as well, higher, and then they sell faster is what I meant to say. So they really want to stay within what's there. It doesn't have a pool, doesn't have a pool, does it or does it not have a pool? That's all factored in for the price as long as the house itself matches. Then we have acreage. That gets a little tough. If they're on half acre plus, that's when the appraisers are like, okay, we've got a whole acre here. Where can I find another house that's got a whole acre? Because sometimes we have a community and then 1 or 2 houses and then a whole nother community, and then the next acre parcel is a mile out. You generally do not want to go a mile out. You want to stay, within that subdivision. If you can't, go to the next subdivisions, and then if you can't, do a circular search for maybe a half mile out, and then maybe and then you can go to a mile out. Hold on one second. So you would just want to stay kind of right within your subdivision, and again, really close square footage. You don't want to, use a 1,600 square foot house and a 2,400 square foot house. Totally different, right? And then you can tell, like, price per square footage, that one is going to sell for more than the other, and so once they get like for like, they're going to start looking at upgrades. Does this one have a pool? Does this one have a pool? Do they have high-end baseboards? Do they have stainless steel appliances? Do they have granite? Do they have quartz? So that's what the appraiser's doing. But that's what we're doing too when we're listing a property, as well as comping for buyers. You want to look at all of that. It's not just like, well, here's the same square footage and this is what it sold for. There's some that people upgrade, but they don't update, right? It's upgraded and it looks nice. They put granite in. But now updated is quartz. It's upgraded from when they bought the house, but it's not updated from today's values, right? There's a whole lot. We can go into a whole appraiser class, but the first question is, if anybody ever asks you, like, I've got $10,000 to put into my home, what should I do? Usually kitchens and bathrooms is what you want to do. Flooring is another big one. But sometimes you put gray flooring in and they want beige, or you put carpet and they want laminate. So that's a tricky one there. But if you upgrade your appliances, your kitchens, your bathrooms, the countertops, those are big ones. All of your, fixtures, the lighting, those are huge upgrades. Landscaping, all of that kind of stuff, the big ticket items. I always tell my buyers when I'm showing a home, hey, before we go out, just assume you're going to need flooring and paint for every home. And if you don't, great. But it could be brand new flooring, but it might not be what they want. Or paint throughout. They put all beige and they're like, great, I don't like beige, So then they have to repaint anyways. So when you're pulling the comps, you just want to make sure it's really about the structure of the home, and then that it's in the same square footage and time frame. I've looked so far as like a year back for comps, but I'm not using them for today's value. I'm seeing as what they comped at, what they sold a year ago, and maybe even 2 years ago. Has it gone up or has it gone down from 2 years ago? But that doesn't justify what today's price is. It just tells me if the neighborhood's holding tight or if it's appreciating or depreciating. So if you guys need help comping anything ever, just send it to me. Here's an address, can you help me? I represent the buyer, can you help me comp it? Or I'm getting ready to take this listing, can you help me with the pricing? Absolutely. I don't care what year you are, you don't have to be new for that. Sometimes we all have problems when we're comping properties, right? All right, so, what do you do if you're not finding anything to match when they're comps? Again, you go to the next neighborhoods. You can use different square footage. I did want to touch upon that. So if you have 2,400 square feet and you have a 2,280 square foot, you could probably use that one. But again, don't do 1,600 and 2,400. But you're going to want to use pretty close. You can use price per square footage if it's a different square footage. And then maybe all the factors. Just because it's a larger square footage does not mean it's going to sell for more. You might get somebody in the smaller square footage, like 2,200 square foot, that sells for more than what the 2,400 square foot sold for because they did a ton of upgrades to that house, right? What are you comparing between the houses? What does the appraiser consider an upgrade? And like we talked about, if they had a baseboards, crown molding, they'll say, oh, I have window coverings or I have blinds. Well, there's a difference between the metal blinds and then plantation shutters. So you need to know the difference between the upgrades. Just because they have their own curtains there does not mean that's an upgrade. That's just covering the window. Let's see, appliances. The stainless steel appliances, if they're going to go with the house, that's an extra value as opposed to that old 15-year white refrigerator that's in the garage. That's not really adding any value, but it's nice that they're going to leave it. So you want to kind of take everything into consideration. And when you are showing homes on the buyer side, feel free to go ahead and just take pictures as you go. And then if you have questions on the pricing, like this is what it looks like. Because sometimes, we as agents, listing agents, we're only taking the best view of the house. And then we're dodging around other things we don't want to see. But when you go in the house, you're like, yeah, we didn't see that in any of the pictures. Take a picture of it. And then if you're making an offer and you notice underneath the cabinets, it is just all deteriorated in there, or there's black substance in there, or water damage somewhere else, take a picture of it, because they listed up here, but hey, this is gonna probably, I talked to our contractor, and he's saying probably X amount of money would fix this, so we'd like to deduct that off the price, Some people, like the houses, might be selling for $900,000 and they priced it for $700,000, and people still come in and try to take money off. No, I gave you a $200,000 allotment there to do all of that. I'm not going to take more off. This is what my price is. But then there's some people that just overprice it and they're like, this is what they want. Okay, they can sit there. And right now we have a ton of properties on the market. So if not that one, I'm sure there's 2 or 3 other ones in the same neighborhood. If they want to sell, they'll sell. I mean, we all feel that our homes are worth a certain value, but you have to be realistic when you're doing that. So, and then how much money does a pool actually add? You can spend $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 on a pool, but how much does an appraiser really allot for that? Do you guys have a clue? No. Usually $7,000 to $10,000, no matter what. Now, you're paying for the pool for your enjoyment, but that doesn't travel on. You're not getting your money back from a pool. But people are like, I spent $60,000 on the pool. My house is $60,000 more. It is not. Now, when it does add some value is when they've landscaped their whole backyard. They have palapa huts and built-in barbecues and a bridge over the pool. Like, that's going to add some value rather than your rectangle pool. That rectangle pool is still $30,000 to $60,000. They're very expensive, but you're not buying it for the upgrade. You're buying it for the use of the pool. So you need to educate your clients on that. You're not going to get everything out of it that you put in. Now, even kitchens are like, I put $10,000 into it. And you're probably not getting that out of there, but yours is going to sell faster than the next one. But you will get something a little bit more. If the neighbor has those little tile or laminate counters and you have quartz, yeah, it's going to pull higher, but I can't guarantee you're going to get every penny back out of that. How much do solar panels add to the property? Do you guys know? No? Okay. So if they're paid off, they add value as long as they're less than 10 years old. If they're over 10 years old, they're usually no value. And most of the time you're buying them, if you're on a lease, it's like a 20 to 30 year lease, right? So if somebody pays for their solar panels outright after 10 years, it's really considered no value because they're outdated. They still work, but appraisers don't usually allot for that much money for paid off solar. But it's great when they have the paid off solar. But then when it's leased, zero value. PPA, power purchase agreement, zero value. You don't own it, so they can't give you a value. So we have a love-hate relationship with the solar. Yes, it saves us money, but it also costs the seller so much. And they're like, hey, I have a lease. I'll pay it off at close of escrow. Great, they're only 2 years old. Awesome. So they take their equity out to pay it. That's great. You just gave the buyer's value. But if it's 10 years old and they still owe $15,000 on it, great, you can pay it off. I appreciate it, but it's not going to add value to the house. They're still wanting the $30,000 that it cost them to put in there, and it just didn't. It wasn't. There's no value there. So again, if you have solar questions, that's when you're going to come to us. If you're making an offer on a house with solar, come to us. If you're listing a house with solar, come to us. Okay. I'm 20 years in, and I think I've done 3 houses with solar, maybe four now. And it's tricky. I've had multiple buyers. Don't show me anything with solar. Absolutely. So some people don't even put it in the listing, and you get there and they're solar, and then they don't want it. Like it's a headache. They're like, I don't want another bill. Now, if it's paid off, you can kind of coach them. Hey, this might be, good for you, and lower your bills. You don't have an extra bill. But there's people that love it and people that hate it. And some of the builders are starting to, put it on there. I want to say for free, but it's not really for free. It's just included in that price. But so let's see. So things to compare when you're viewing a home or getting ready to list a home. for comps, right? When you're walking in a home, you're going to look at the overall condition of the home. The flooring type, when it was replaced, right? So some people are like, I put this flooring in 15 years ago, it's new. No. New is considered less than 3 years. So if somebody renovates their kitchen, the appraiser is going to say, when was that renovated? Because if it's more than 3 years old, they're usually not taking it as much value. Even though people put $10,000 in there 3 years ago, again, everybody's tastes usually change. We go from beige to gray to laminate. We were having travertine, and then it transitioned up into LVP, and then, so everything starts moving around. So just because they put the money in there doesn't mean they're going to get 100% of it out. But paint. What is the paint like inside of the house? Have they painted the outside of the house? That's thousands of dollars just to paint the outside of your home. Baseboards, are they standard baseboards? Are they 3-inch, 5-inch? What size of baseboards are there? Windows, have they updated the windows? Are they dual pane windows? Are they energy efficient? Do they have, the screen tinting windows? Do they have solar screens on the windows? There's all these other things to consider in there. Sometimes you'll have the dual pane energy efficient windows, but then they're all foggy and you can't get that off. And what happens is something has, the seal has broken in between the windows, and now you can't even look out the window. So the window itself works, but the dual pane for energy, that's useless at this point because the gases have gotten out. So you can ask to replace that, but just one window alone could be a couple $100. So to replace all your windows, are they Anderson windows, which is a little bit higher end? I had somebody that spent $12,000 on windows, and they're like, no, I want to get that back. And I'm like, it's nice, but the general public doesn't know pricing of windows, so they're not going to add $10,000. It's great that you did it, and you could probably pull a little bit higher, but if nothing else in your house has been upgraded, but you did the windows, nobody's going to see that value, right? Let's see, solar screens, blinds, shutters, light fixtures, staircase railing. Do they have just the regular pony wall? Is it just a wood with the spindles? Are they the metal, wrought iron, really elaborate ornamental spindles? Is it the new updated, they have this wiring that goes? So you have to look at all of that. And then countertops, we have laminate, then we have the white little subway tiles, then we have bigger tiles, then we have Corian, then we have granite, then we have quartz, so there's all different levels. But granite, there are 10 different levels of granite. So that little black and white speckled, that's basic standard apartment granite, right? So people are like, I have granite counters. Yeah, but that's probably, it's the lowest of the low. You can spend thousands of dollars on beautiful pieces of granite. So what level does it look like? What are the edges? Are they square? Are they rounded? Is it a raw edge? So all of that adds to that. Now, are we supposed to know all of that? No, but after viewing enough homes, you will see the difference in just these pieces of stone. So things to watch for. You can tell the difference in level once you start reviewing the homes. Okay, they tried, but it wasn't up here try. It was hey, I'm making it nice. What do they say? I put lipstick on a pig, where it's I didn't finish anything behind the walls, but to the eye, it looks like everything's brand new. Brand new does not mean, again, upgraded to today's standards. Let's see. Countertops, appliances, again, we talked about the stainless steel and then the white, they're almond, whatever. Any kitchen upgrades, any bathroom upgrades, plumbing fixtures like faucets and things like that, or tankless water heater, that's a huge one. And it's not so much the unit itself, because that's a couple $1,000s, but it's pulling the permits. When you do a tankless gas water heater, it's pulling the permits. We did one time for our house. We had to have them come out 3 different times. It's a whole process. And in the meantime, we have our old one hooked up, which blew. And that's why my husband's like, okay, we're just going to replace it for tankless, thinking we're just going to switch it out. No. So they said, we can't get to you for 3 weeks. We had to get a gas company out there to do a gas line. So we had to buy a cheaper one just to hold us over the regular water heater while they were trying to install this one. It was just, then the one we ordered came damaged. We have to send that one back. Yeah, there's always something going on, right? But it's not like a quick switch out. So the fact that they went and did that, it's like adding a casita. they're like $80,000, you know, $100,000, depending on what you want to do. But it's the nightmare of having to pull the permits and getting all of that done, and the contractors. Like, it's priceless if it's already there. Like, whew, I'll take that. So you have to, a lot for those upgrades. But landscaping, pool, spa, because there's a difference in pricing for a pool, and then compared to a pool with a spa. And then is it just square, or do we have like a rock waterfall, or do we have the waterfall that come out of like the pots, or shooting this way and that way? I mean, those are all upgrades. It's not, you know, the pool is not a one size fits all, right? And then patio covers, number of garages. A 1-car garage is great if you have it. That's great for starter home. Then you have 2-car. Then you have 2-car with a tandem, which means it goes through. So it's 2-car, but then when you open it up, one goes really long. So it's like technically 2.5. Then you have the 3-car. Then you have ones that have outside car, like detached garages on top of those 3 cars. So the number of garages does add value to the home, right? Because most men are like, I don't care about the house, I just care about the garage. And most women are like, I just care about the kitchen. So everybody's got their wants. So you have to kind of understand where it pulls. And this is going to help you when you have a listing and when you're putting in the remarks. What do I say in there? What is considered an upgrade? What's going to draw people there? And then the location inside the community even matters. Because if you're on the outside, you know, the back wall of the community, and then it backs up to Walmart or a gas station, it's going to pull less than something on the that's right inside the development, right? Again, real estate's number 1 rule is location, location, locations, right? So you just kind of have to take all of that into consideration. It matters of where the property location is and the community, and if they share the walls, who they share them with. Okay, so now we're going to go into real quick pulling comps. So I want to show you how to do that. I'm just going to pick like a random, where's my thing? Random subdivision. So this is going to be your MLS. You're going to click on search and click on residential here. And then on this side here, you have active, which is the ER status. When I'm pulling comps, I do active, under contract no show. My phone is going crazy. Give me 2 seconds here. Doesn't look like there's an emergency. I don't know what's going on. And then ER is just exclusive right. There's ER and EA. EA is exclusive agency. We do not allow you to do EA. Exclusive right is everything else. That means you have the exclusive right. You are going to sell this property. Let's see. Okay, and then under contract no show, and then sold. Right? So then from there, I don't really type anything in there. I go to the subdivision. And you can do it any way you want, but I typically just click on those, and then because it says right here over 5,000 matches, right? So now we got to rein it in to maybe our specific neighborhood. So you'll click on map. And then again, it says too many, so you got to zoom in. So I'm going to like go into the northwest somewhere, and then like I'm trying to see a neighborhood that might have all 3 colors. Like this looks like a good one. Okay, so when you're doing them, you kind of have to look at, the outside of this, like how big is this neighborhood? Sometimes you'll get neighborhoods that butt up against it. Like, let's see. I'll give you an example. Like right here. So see how close these little, you might on the video, you might not be able to see this, but there's all these little lines. This is each property. But right below it, it's not a main street, but then it goes into these very long parcels here. So this is more ranch homes over here. So you've got, what you're gonna do is you're gonna draw, and I like to do the polygon. You can do a square, a rectangle, but when you click it, it's just gonna pull everything, right? So if the community, which most of them are not, square, look at, I've missed some homes down here and I've missed some homes over here. So I don't like that. So what I like to do is a polygon, and I'm going to use this for an example over here. But I click on the polygon, and then I click 1 dot here. Oh, you're going to get that there. See, that's even too high. And then you're going to go down to the next corner, and then I'm going to go to the next corner, and I'm trying to find, like, it looks like right here is a line, and you guys might not be able to see this, but I'm going to show you in a minute. So this all seems to be one neighborhood, and you're just kind of guessing, guys, right? So I'm going to put it here and then here. Okay. Normally I don't go up like that, but I started up there, so I want to make sure it doesn't include any of those. But let's scroll down here. Oh. So see how I left out this larger area here with these larger properties. But it looks like these are double, double, double. So it looks like it's still part of this, and it comes in. If you drive in this way, you can go down or you can go up. And so you're kind of just trying to figure out where this specific neighborhood is. And it's got all of these. And you know, the green is active, the orangish yellow is under contract, and the red are sold. I don't think there's enough sold in this neighborhood, so I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to do this one I saw across the way here. See, I think there's plenty right here. So this, I've actually sold in this neighborhood, so that works out well. So we're going to go here and click the polygon again. And then I'm going to click on this corner, this corner, this corner. It's a big neighborhood, and this corner. And then I bring it back here, and then it'll ask you, do you want to delete it? Do you want to exclude it? Nope, this is all I want is this neighborhood, right? So you come back here, and you're like, great. Now I've got a good sprinkling of all of the properties, and then you're going to click results, right? So once you pull up results, we have green are the ER available. Then we have 3 under contract, and then the rest are sold. So I'm using Tim's, and as you can see, you can add all of this. Oh, that's a lot. Normally it's got your MLS number, your status, your address, and then it skips over. He likes a lot of information, who the listing office is, who the listing agent is, if it's owner occupied. Like, I don't have all that. I have just the price, which is the actual, the sale price right now, or the list price right now. I don't even have original list price. I don't care what it originally started at for all of these. I only care about the one that I'm making an offer on. And then I don't care about the list date. I do have building stories 1 or 2, and so there's a lot of 1 stories in here. So what I would go is like, hey, I want to get rid of the 2 stories because the property I want per se is going to be a 1 story. So I go back to criteria, and I'm going to scroll down to right here, building description, and I only want to click 1 story. So right now I have 12 matches, but the minute I highlight 1 stories, now I'm down to 9. So it's a little bit more manageable number, and I'm going to compare like for like. Right? So then I'm going to click results, and it'll bring me back to all of this. I'm going to go back over here, and it'll tell me, so I'm looking at price, building description, and then square footage. And then it'll have all this: bedroom, bathroom, garage, year built, and then days on market. It'll have that as well. Now, the actual close date are the ones that sold. That's what you're going to, your comp is really what has sold. The ER and the under contract, they're great, so you know like what competition is and what else is out there, but the appraisers are only looking at what's sold. So when you're going to make an offer and the seller's like, say I'm the listing agent, I'm like, oh my gosh, that one doesn't sell until like next week. Let's try to push the appraiser off so we can get that one included in that comp. But sometimes, you know it's selling for higher in like 2.5 weeks, but the appraiser's coming out tomorrow, they're not going to use that one. So it might pull, shorter, like we don't know. So you kind of have to gauge all that, but it'll tell you, I'm like, his fields are really small. There we go. So it'll tell you if it's closed in 2025 or 2024. It should be all 2025, and I'm going to show you why. Let me get back here. Because in my original criteria, I only went back sold 180 days. This auto-populates there, but you can make it shorter, like, hey, only 90 days. It just auto-populates to 6 months, but appraisers are going to use 3 months. But it auto-populates to 6 months, and it's good because it tells you, hey, this is what it's been doing over the last 6 months. They're actually going down in price, or hey, they're actually going up. So it's good to keep it at the 6 months. Don't change that when you're looking, but when you're actually doing the numbers, just know that, right? So these are the ones that... Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me see. I got to see photo. Hold on. This is just me. Oh no, I sold my last listing. They're really good friends of mine. I've sold them 3 houses, and then they have 3 kids, and I've sold 2 of their kids, and then a cousin and a brother. So when you start, getting your clients that referral, and so they were on Resort Ridge. So I was like, I just sold their house. They moved. I was wondering if somebody resold it. I just couldn't remember the number, but that's not it. But anyways, so let's go back here. So I like to always go to agent single line, and it's going to give you this information. He just has so much information here. Like, you don't need all of it. So I'm going to look at the solds. Let's go to their square footage right here. So 2304, let's say that's the square footage that we're going for, right? So this one, 2304, sold in August for 515. Yes, so 515. Then another one for 577 and another one for 610. So August, and September. So you could clearly see that these are going up in price. So the one I sold was last year for 590, and it's the same square footage as that. So they are clearly going up, so it's good. And theirs was not technically fully updated. It's beautiful, very clean. It just wasn't updated, so that's great that it's going up that much. That's $20,000. So awesome there. But then this one here, $699. That's a huge jump between these. Like, oh my gosh, wow. Okay, so 610 to 665. But even so, that's a $50,000 jump. Let's look at this one, and that's why I go over here and I'm like, let's see what's going on with this one. What is in there? So they've updated flooring. Okay, their cabinets are the darker cabinets. Right now, they're whites and grays or multicolor, where they'll have like gray on the top and then dark midnight blue on the bottom, But it looks very clean. They have a backsplash, it looks like. This is a standard builder fixture. Wow, okay. It looks like they have some kind of granite countertop there. And you're just going through it. Baseboards, it looks like they might have 3-inch baseboards. You're gonna get used to looking in with every picture with like a magnifying glass. So upgrade is they've added cabinets in their laundry room here, but they don't come with appliances here. As this looks like. So it's laminate flooring throughout, so that's a great thing. They have big fans in every room. Awesome. I'm trying to see. So they put a nice little Roman tub in there. I mean, it's clean. So backyard, decent size, nice grass area, a pool, a covered patio. 660? I don't know where that came from, but that's great. 3-car garage. Like that, wow, this is not what I would have expected for 660, but that's what the neighborhood's doing. They got it. But so now what I usually do is I go back here and I'll go, you can't see, oh, there we go. It's to listing, and I'm gonna scroll all the way down to the bottom of the listing, and it'll tell you, okay, Nicola, he's out of the Southwest office. He's one of our agents, but he was the listing agent. And Stacy Harroy of BHHS, she was the buyer's agent, and they did a conventional loan. So either it appraised or the buyer paid the difference. Don't know how, because that's really not what I would have assumed. I think my listing was way better. My people, so, and now, like I said, they got under 6. So I don't know, they got 665. That's a huge jump in a year. But hey, great. So now we know, okay, that floor plan, we go back here. So that floor plan, we're gonna scooch back over here. Our square footage, 2304, 23. So now there's one listed at 575. What's the difference between that one and the one that closed at 675? So let's go back. Normally you don't have to go back and forth, but he's got all this extra information. So you're gonna go back to this one. Let's see what this one looks like. And I always start with the photos. And then from the photos, then I go to the remarks, right? So again, clearly needs to be painted. Who wants a peach house nowadays, right? But they didn't do the outside, so that's a few $1,000s that they're gonna have to do that. But the inside, I think, looks really nice. Again, laminate floors, all white. It looks like it's a clean, fresh paint. Nice quartz countertops, those are beautiful. They have all black appliances as opposed to stainless steel appliances. So, yeah, plantation shutters, that's an upgrade. They do have carpet in the bedrooms. nice, you know, and then they have this tile in the bathrooms. So now we're looking at 3 different floorings. It doesn't flow, right? Whereas the other one had the LVP all the way through. So you're looking at all of this stuff. This is just I can't tell if that's standard or is that might be an upgraded countertop as well. So, but then this looks like a laminate countertop right here in the laundry room, which is okay because it's a laundry room. But again, you're looking at that. Now you look at the backyard. There's no grass. It's just rock. They came in, dumped rock. It looks pretty clean. That's it. So I get it. And then they've got these pavers that are all different colors. Doesn't look great. A gazebo that probably should have been taken down because that's like a very 1990s look. And if they had taken that down, it might have not looked like that and they might have gotten, you know, a little bit more, but it just makes it look dated now. And then let's see. Yeah, see, all of this looks like it just wasn't well maintained, you know. So again, you're just kind of comparing. That's almost a, you know, what's that, $80,000 difference? Just like, I don't think there should be that big of a swing, but that's clearly what happened. You don't know, right? So now if you're making an offer on one of these, at this one, like, I don't know that I would take much off of that price because if you saw what this one closed at. Now, if we go back to here real quick though and click on one of the ones that are in between. So this is at 605 and 616. Let's check this one out. Bungalow Bay. What does this one look like? Ooh. It's a little different on those cabinets. Not quite sure, but it looks like nice beige quartz. I mean, a granite. A pool, spa, and like there's nothing else. You can see there's plantation shutters, but what does the rest of the house look like? So now we're like, where did they get 616? So that's when you go back to the listing and you start reading. I always start with the agent remarks. Home has 0 carpeting and no steps. What does that mean? Oh, home is ADA wheelchair compliant. That's great. You know, you can put something like that. If new owner does need ramps, they are easy to remove. Oh, okay, so the cellar in there was ADA, so then you can pick up and move the ramps, which is great. Beautiful flower garden, home comes with child safety around the, okay, solar is paid off. We don't know when they got the solar. Let's look in here and see, where's our solar? Up here, right here. So solar, it says 11/30/15 is when they installed it. So it's paid off, it's at 10 years. It probably still works. So when you're doing that, you now have to ask them, is there a warranty? Because sometimes when you pay it off, there's no maintenance. So who fixes it when it breaks? Like what's going on with that, right? So that is a plus. They get solar. Then you'll ask for solar bills. You know, am I saving money? Is it working? All of that comes along with it. So then you come in here, French doors, granite, RV boat parking. So that's a plus. I know a lot of them in this neighborhood have the RV boat parking, but some of them do not. People that need that RV parking, that was one of my niches for a long time, is because when they need that parking, they need it. But do they need it for a boat? Do they need it for a tall RV? Because some of the houses, the one that I actually sold, the roof came down and it was not usable. So luckily the next door neighbor let them park their RV right next door on the other side of the wall because she wasn't using it. But that's the things that you have to look for. So if you type in RV parking, they might have added it up in here, like RV parking, but it pulls it, and then you get there and you're looking at the pictures, you're like, that's not gonna work. So again, when you're looking at the comps, you have to look through all of this stuff, right? And RV parking usually means they have a larger side yard, which means a larger square footage. So this one had multiple offers, look at that. It was on the market how many days? 78 days, but had multiple offers. Woo! Look at that. So usually you don't see that. When you see multiple offers, it's like 10 days or less, right? But 78 days and now all of a sudden they have multiple offers. Oh, okay. Don't know if that's true, but that's what they're stating at that point. Yep, so then you're gonna go back here and then, so when you're pulling your comps, you're looking at all of that stuff and going through everything with a fine tooth comb. And then, but there's plenty of them in that same square footage, so you'd be able to get, and the appraiser would be able to use this as a comp. Now, if you are looking for, say one of them was 2,000 square feet, there's nothing that's 2,000. Well, at that point, you would use the 1,900 because that's close enough. And then he might even use the 2,300, and he'll just take a price per square footage and allot that for the square footage of the 2,000. but there's plenty in this neighborhood to justify that. Now, if there wasn't anything and you had a 1,500, 1,900 is still a little too big for that, for that to compare to. So the appraiser might go into the next neighborhoods to look for something that size. So again, takes a little bit to figure it out. That's why I say if you need any help with that, because you don't want to tell your clients, oh yeah, it's worth it. And then they spend the money for the inspection and the appraisal and the seller. Because what I'll do, this is what I do when I'm a listing agent. I price mine, and then when somebody gives me an offer and they ask for closing costs, I call up their lender before I accept their offer, and I say, hi, Mr. Lender, I've got an offer for my property with one of your clients. I see they're asking for $10,000 in closing costs. Is that a need or a want? And they always stumble on their word because they don't want to tell you. And I'll say, listen, we're not opposed to giving them, but I just need to know if it's a need or a want, because if it doesn't appraise and we reduce the price, we're not reducing the price and still giving them $10,000 in closing costs. So I'm letting everybody know now. And if he says no, they have no extra funds. And so that's when I'll call the listing agent and say, hey, I just talked to your lender. Can you produce extra funds? We don't mind giving that to you, but if it doesn't appraise, we're not tying our property up for 2 weeks, taking it off the market. Now, I should hope I'm closer on but you never know with these appraisers. And you can have 3 appraisers in there, they're gonna give you 3 different numbers. Everybody sees everything differently. So with that, you're just prepping everybody. And if they say no, they're going to need it and say, okay, well, at this time, my seller's not interested in taking this offer. But if we sit another few weeks and we don't get anything, we'll let you know and we'll come back to you. But we're not going to tie the property up and take it off the market when we know that if it doesn't appraise, we would have to. You have no other option in that case but to lower the price, because those buyers don't have the money to pay out of pocket. So when an appraisal comes in low, the seller can hold tight at their price, and the buyer has to pay the difference in cash. So if they offered $500 or $525 and it appraised for $500, and the seller says, no, I want my $525, they have to come out of pocket $25,000 in cash. They can only get the loan for the $500, right? And so a lot of buyers in this market especially don't have that. So then the other option is the seller drops the price to appraised value, but then everything gets renegotiated. Commissions, closing costs, home warranty, everything, right? If they're losing money on the price, which they're not really losing it because it's obviously not valued at it, but in the seller's mind, I got an offer for $525 and now it's $500, I'm losing that money. You're not losing it, it's valued at it, but it's a hard sell for them. You can't, to get them past that, they're like, ugh. You can split the difference, hey, it's $25,000. Can we do 12.5 and 12.5? They come up, we'll come down, Or you can just say nope. Both parties say nope. I'm not coming up and I'm not coming down. You give them the earnest money and you walk away, and then you go back on the market to start over. Challenge with that is if it's FHA or VA, because those appraisals will stay with the property for 6 months. So if it's an FHA appraisal and it comes in low, well, now you can drop that buyer, but you better just take the FHA out, because if you get another FHA buyer, it's still going to appraise for the same thing. They're going to use that appraisal. Same with VA. So now you just lost your pool of people, and you're looking at cash and conventional at that point. So we can go into depth a little bit more. Do you guys have questions on comps, on how to do that?
There's so much to this.
Yes.
This is so great. Thank you
yes.
so much.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like unless you see it and you're looking on how to do it, so when you need your comp, just schedule a time with me. We'll sit down and I'll show you how to do all of that, because you'll go to the LVR and they'll give you classes on all that, but they're not teaching you all of the ins and outs of the comps and what you should be looking for. They're showing you how to get it. That's it, right? So, okay. No other questions? No? Okay, perfect. So let's see. I want to make sure I went through everything. Square footage, perfect. Okay, now let's go on to a CMA report. So we'll go back to, let me get over here. We're gonna go back to the dashboard. I always start at the dashboard. You hover over my matrix and click dashboard, and this is your dashboard, right? So this is, if you've gone to the LVR, this is your quick search. Really, I don't click on much of this here. Every time you log in, you'll have a thing of the day, and they'll tell you what's going on. But then I use the quick search. Other than that, I use all the links up here. So what you're going to want to do is under my matrix, you're going to click on my CMAs. Super, super easy, right? And I like this one. There's, I don't know, 10 different ways you can do a CMA. RPR has one, like, there's all these different ones. But I like using this matrix one. And it's like 40 some pages long, and you can decide what you want in and out of it. But you're going to start a new CMA, right? And then you're going to name it or create a contact. And I'm just going to put Tim. He's in there for there, right? And cross property, description. That's it. So now you go to the next page. You're going to click your pages. I always, get this thing out there. I just click everything. Oh, he's already got some in there. Hold on, let me get back here. Select as a default. Restore. Oh, I don't want to okay. Let me get, okay, I don't want to touch it because I don't want to delete his stuff. But normally this section is blank and you just click, 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 click and bring it all over there, right? And so if you have yours, are you doing on yours? Mary Faye?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yep, so it just brings it all over there, and then once they're there, I like to bring everything, and then once it's completed, I get to decide what I want to remove, right? And then the subject property, you're gonna put in an MLS number, which I don't have, so let me go. Nope, I better go here. I'm gonna start back over. You're gonna go to get a parcel number. You're going to go to tax, and I will do, I'm gonna do, oh no, here, let me do this one. Okay, so I just do the house number and the street. That is it. And then you click, it says one match, and then you click results. Where you'll have multiple matches if they're townhomes and unit numbers and condos, all of that. But if it's an actual house, you just need a number and the street name. It says one match, and you just click results. Okay, so now there's your parcel number. And I don't have a pen, but let me do here. 1, 2, 5, 2, 8, 4, 1, 0, 0, 7, 5. I could probably copy it, but for my next time I do this class, I at least want to have one written down. Oh, this is such a touchy mouse. Okay, copy. Okay, so now we're going to go back to my CMAs. And then, so I already started one. So once you get out of there, it'll hold in there. So I'm just going to click on that one, and we're just going to continue. So I'm going to edit my CMA. So I got to this part where it says cross-property MLS number. Don't do that. There shouldn't be an MLS number. If you're doing a CMA, it's usually because you have a listing. So you won't have an MLS number because it shouldn't be listed. So you want to go ahead and do the parcel number, the tax parcel number. Oops. And you click paste, when there, and I click fill, right? So now it auto-populates whatever they've pulled from the tax record. You can fill the rest of this stuff in there. I usually just leave that. Now, if I have an image, I will upload the image. And when I use the CMAs, when I'm taking a listing. So whenever somebody says, can you show, come over, look at my house, tell me what it's worth, is what they usually say. I usually book 2 or 3 days out. I don't go that same day, right? Because I want to prepare myself by doing a CMA. And in the meantime, I'm driving by their house. And what I like to do is take a picture. If they have a car in the driveway, I love it for this situation, because they're like, Mom, my car's in my driveway. I'm like, yeah, I was here last night. They're like, oh my God. It just shows that you're doing so much work. You're not just, but if you can't get there, because sometimes they want you there tomorrow and they're clear across town, just Google it. And a lot of times the house picture, you're not supposed to copy pictures off of anything, but this is going nowhere but other than to you and the seller, right? So you're just saying, hey, I grabbed it off of Google, no big deal. It's not going to be posted anywhere or anything, but I always try to put a photo in there because it makes it seem like you've done the work. And then I have done it before where it pulled the wrong parcel. And I uploaded the picture. They're like, that's not our house. And I'm like, yes, I clearly saw that as I pulled up. Like, it's clearly not your house. Don't know why that came up there. But for the most part, you would upload it, and then you just save it to your computer, upload here, browse, and then it'll pop up in there. So I don't really add much there, right? And then you just keep clicking these. So cover, again, if it doesn't bring over from the other page, then you're going to do it again and upload it there. Your name will show up here and your phone number and anything you filled up here. This is your contact information. And what we're doing is we're building a CMA report for them. So this is because we're logged into Tim's system. It's all Tim's information is going to populate there, just like down here. His picture, all of his information. So all of that's there because it should be uploaded into the MLS when you join the MLS, right? And then comparables. It's going to ask us what comparables. So I'm going to add from listings. So once again, I'm going to just do my comps like I just did. So that's why it's kind of important. And I started with the comps because you need to know how to do them. You would click active, coming soon, under contract, and then I do sold as well because the sold is actually the comp. And then I go into the map. On this one, I'll just click the map. And I'll go right back to the same neighborhood I did last time. Tropical, and I need Jones. Jones right here. Right there. And then I again like to do the polygon. I click and click, 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 boom, done. And then I just hit OK. Then it'll bring me up with 11 matches. So then I go down here, and again, I only want the 1 stories. Where did they go? Oh, now it's in a different spot. Condo, single family, high rise, property type. Oh, here we go. Okay, so they should be fairly in the same spot, but it's usually not. I don't know. Okay, so we did that. Now I'm down to 8, which I thought I had 9 last time. Don't know why, but there, yeah. So there were 2 ER. Why I don't have another ER, I don't know. But so if you know that, you're going to go back again. But for this, we're just going to say this is correct, right? So now my comps show like this. Do you see how much information, other information Tim had in his? Like, it should all be right here so you can read it. Even here, I don't have the agent's name. I don't care who the listing agent is. It doesn't matter to me. So when the LVR gives you this setup, you can go in there and change that. Just Tim loves all of the details about everything. I'm like, just tell me the basics. I just need to know what's the status, what the MLS number is, the status, the address, and then the price that it is right this second. And then our square footage. So I know that I need just the 2304s. So now I'm just going to highlight all the 2304s. Boop, boop. Oh, 25, and then this one down here. Wait a minute, 25 is here. Okay, so we don't want that. So I just wanted the 23s, and then those are the ones I'm going to select. That's it. Those are going to be my comps, right? So for when I'm doing my CMA report. So the CMA, the listing presentation is to kind of tell them what you do and then what you think the value of the property is. So when you're going to a listing presentation, I always say do not ever give them a price. Give them a $50,000 to $60,000 range until they choose you. So now we know, this is a crazy one. Hey, for your property, low is $575, high is $665. So they're like, well, where am I? Well, I haven't stepped foot into your house until today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make notes of all the good things and the upgrades you've done and any repairs that might be needed. And then I'm going to go back and go through this with a fine-tooth comb. If you haven't updated and upgraded your house in a few years, then we can probably throw this one out for $665, but still $575 to $610, no, $515 to $610. That's a big swing. You know, that's still almost $100,000, that's $95,000 swing there. So I need to see where you kind of fit in there. And then so, you know, when we decide to move forward, I can get all that information for you. But what they do is a lot of times if you don't 100% know them and that they're going with you, they're going to call multiple agents and they just want to hear a number that they like. So they just keep going through agents until they hear that magic number. Now, what you want to do at your listing presentation is show them your value and what you do different. So then when you didn't give them the number, but they now know what your value and what you do is. And then when you go to the next guy, he didn't really tell them what he does, but he told them a number. And they're like, well, what do you do? Like, do you market? Do you put a sign? What do you do open houses? He's not really telling them anything. He's like, sure. Because 9 times out of 10, realtors go to listings unprepared. And they don't tell them anything, they don't give them anything. So if you want to take my listing class, I show you everything you're supposed to bring and break down and all of that kind of stuff, right? So now we have the ones that we want to use, which we're going to highlight if this thing goes away. Those are the ones we're going to use. Now we're going to click on map. Oh, you know what? This doesn't, for some reason on here, it didn't load. Okay. So now it'll show you where they're located. Now I'm going to hit adjustments. And there's nothing else you need to do. You just need to click through the tabs and then it produces, right? So then I click pricing and then it'll tell you low and high, and then I click finish. It's that easy, okay? So it's really just loading the property in, the parcel number, and then the comps that you want to use, and then it produces something. So then I hit save, and then once it saves it, then I can come in here and view my CMA. It takes a minute, and then that's where I decide which pages I want or if I want to take it out. And what I do is I get a little plastic folder, and it's got like this little black thing that you pull up, you shove the papers in and squish them down. I get it at Office Depot. They used to sell them singly, now they're in a 5-pack for like $12, but you're going there completely professional. I staple my card inside because it's clear. That way it's not on the outside, and it's potentially going to get ripped off when they stack stuff on it. So it's inside, so when they look at it, it's just my card. They can see through there, they can see the picture that I've uploaded, and it looks like this. Now these first 2 pages, this one's only 17 pages long because that's what those pages Tim had picked. I myself, I pick all of them, and it's like 40 some pages, right? And then I decide what I want to print. So page 1 and 2 are pretty similar, which he doesn't even have page 2. So you decide, but if you've uploaded your picture there, then it's got the address, it's got your information, and then a price graph. Some people need graphs, some people need numbers, some people need words. So I include all 3, and they allow you to do that, right? So you're gonna pick through it. This right here is my one of my favorite pages, minimums to maximums. And so, I don't know if he has the other one. No, let me see. So it'll give you the comps, and then it gives you pictures of all the comps and all of their MLS information. So then your people can look at it and say, well, they didn't have a pool, and they have granite, and they don't, so they can kind of go through it, but it'll tell them the pricing. The list price was $530, the sold price was $515, and then it'll have days on market usually here. Or maybe this one doesn't. Sold date. It tells you when it's sold, but it doesn't tell you when they listed it. So all of them come out different, so you want to make sure it has all the information. More graphs, more graphs. Wasn't sure if that was looking. It tells you how to list your home, how to prepare. This talks about your commission. Oh, right here. This is my favorite page, pricing recommendation. So it'll tell you the average, the high, the median, the low, and then recommended price. And what I do, I put the low dash the high. And I say, your house fits right in between there, because I haven't set foot in it until today. So I just can tell you what the low and the high is. But when we decide to go forward, I will have gone through that, with a fine-tooth comb, because right now I'm here just to give you the information of how I list homes and what I do to market for your property. And if you're not ready to sell right today, this price means nothing, because you might want me to list it in 2 months, and that's all going to change, or 6 months from now. So I can tell you right now, low to high, what's going on in your neighborhood. So when we're closer to your list date, I can give you an idea of where that's going to be. And they're like, oh, okay, they were hoping for that, but that's how you get them to call you back. But if you give them all of the information up front, that you gave them everything, right? Yeah, they're going to go to the next agent to try to get a different price, and then they're going to go with them, so you want them to fall in love with you and how you list and how you market and all of that, as opposed to the pricing, right? And then if they say, well, you know what, I want that $699 or $695 price. Okay, well, I can't guarantee that. I'd have to go back and look with a fine-tooth comb of what the pictures look like, and maybe call the buyer's agent to see where we can compare. But already I took a quick peek at that one, and it has this and this and this, and they know that yours doesn't. So I don't know what we're going to be able to pull that high, but I'll look at it when I get back to my office. And I'm like sitting there going, you're not going to get that, whatever. But I don't want to tell them that right then. I just want to say, you know what, let me look into it, see why they pulled that high, because that's a huge swing. Normally I like to do $40,000 to $50,000, and this is like a $100,000 difference. So let me see why they pulled that high. Don't know, right? So, but you don't want to give them all of the information. But so that's all there, and then that's it. So this isn't actually page 2, so I don't know why it's down there, but it is what it is. So with that, I just hit print. And then if you print here at the office, you can print it in color. Sometimes I never made it back to my office, and so I would end up going to Office Depot, and it's 60 cents a page. And when you have 42 pages to print out, and this is the first time you're meeting these people, and you're not even guaranteed that listing, it gets kind of expensive, but you always want to print in color, guys. If you can't make it and spend the money, I went to a listing one time. I was the second person, a listing presentation. I was the second person in there. He brought the same CMA because we all have access to it through the MLS. His was in black and white, mine was color. I got the listing. He said, if they're not even going to print that in color, why would I even use them? And I said, yeah, he's probably not going to print much of anything else. And if he does, it's probably not going to be in color. Color is very expensive. I said, but that's just something I do for my marketing, and I got the listing. So it matters. All those little details matter, right? The more information you give them. So I have a whole listing class, but I usually, when I do my listing presentation, I give them this. I have a reminder media magazine that's got my information on it. And then I do a comp sheet. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I've got it here.
So you only use the CMA for listings?
Pretty much. Yeah, there's no, like, nobody needs that kind of information unless they're looking to list their house.
Okay.
And where I'm getting the price from. Because a lot of times we're like, no, I want 680 because on Zillow, well, of course, Zillow says this is the low, that's the high. The high one just sold. So they're going to say yours is comparable because they're just using square footage.
Yeah.
They're not using anything else, right? They're just going off of the most recent comp, but they don't match. So that's why you hire us realtors that actually physically go into your house and show you why that one got this price and you're going to get this price, right? You know, and that's our biggest challenge is because people are looking at Zillow and like that, but where did you get that price? Oh, well, my father said I should get that. I didn't know your dad was a realtor. How long has he been licensed here in Nevada? And why aren't you using him? And then they're like, no, he's not. Oh, what does he do? Oh, so he sells couches. Oh, you know what? I don't think I'd go to his store and tell him what he should price his couches at. He shouldn't try to price your house either. But that's just me. I mean, well, he's bought and sold a lot of homes over the last 50 years. When was the last one? Oh, 20 years ago? Yeah, things have changed. So I'm here to give you the most recent data, you know. So you just kind of say it with a smile, and it's not condescending, but it's like, why would you use somebody's information that doesn't? This is not their field of expertise, right? So any questions on any of that? Like I said, there's multiple places you can go for the CMA report. Like RPR has a really good one too. I just don't train on that because those are extra tools. If you guys have time, because the LVR gives it to us, and if you go, I think right here, RPR, you can get another one in there. And it's really colorful and it's great, right? I just don't train on that. I'm training on the basic stuff to get you through what you need to. And then when you want to elevate, you can go that route too. But one thing I do want to say, when you're doing comps for, say, like a listing, I will do comps in the MLS. I will pull the Zillow, not that I think that they're correct, but because the public is looking at Zillow. I will pull realtor.com. I will pull homes.com, and then I go to read a list right next to the MLS tab right here. And you're going to click it. And you're going to type in, let's see, once it loads. Right here, you're going to hit search at the top. And then, I don't want to do a survey. And we're going to type in that same parcel number, 8121, Canyon Rent. And then, I didn't separate it. Canyon Rent, here we go. And then you hit search. Search right here. And it'll tell you everything about that specific property. So when you're going to a listing, you type it in there, what the square footage is, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, tells you the owner's name, some community stuff like what's going on in the community and stuff. School district, tax information, assessments, again, characteristics of the home, sell score. I love this. 681 out of 1,000, which is actually kind of high. Very high is 800s and above. But this just says, hey, they're most likely to sell because they're in the high range. And then you scroll down and it'll tell you the real value. 408, and then the average range, 379 to 473. So I use that as well. And I type all of that up. You know, I have MLS, Realist, Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, and I've got all of what they all say. And I'll say, oh, look, low is 379, high is 480, depending on all of them. And Zillow has got you at 550. Crazy how they're so high and everybody else isn't. So you can clearly see that they're really not looking to your specific property, but we have an idea. So when they're telling you, oh, well, I want 550, but nothing else justifies that, and here are the specific comps in your neighborhood and what they've sold for and what upgrades that they have and where we justify that pricing. So it's a little bit of help. So you not want to just use one thing. You want to use the MLS and all of these other tools as well. So, and it's good. All you have to do is type the address in, scroll all the way to the bottom, there you go. It's really easy. But on this as well, it will tell you listing information, when it's been listed. I love this Real List tab in here. And then mortgage history and a map. And then there's actually a foreclosure if they obviously haven't had a foreclosure. But if they've had a foreclosure or anything, it would be listed in here also. So if you're going to go to a listing, you want to make sure it's not in foreclosure, because sometimes they don't tell you. And you get there and you're like, okay, you've taken the listing and the pictures and all that, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we got a foreclosure notice and we have about 12 days. Okay, I can't help you at that point. Let me call the bank, but they keep you in the dark, and it should be 90 days. They should be contacting you before they got, hey, I'm way behind, can you list the property? But if they get that blue notice on their door, that's usually 90 days from then they're going to get foreclosed on. But if they're giving it to, they've had it, and it's like, hey, in 12 days I'm going to get foreclosed on, then there's a problem. So, but yeah, so this Real List gives you a ton of information about every property. So one of my favorite tools. But other than that, anything else? No? Okay, wonderful. So let me just shut this. Mm-hmm. And if you are watching this on video, please reach out to me and I can get you the handout for this specific class. See you guys soon.